register covers?
You already did that.
Did you get it? How's the signal? Yes. I used the same last slot. Yes, the same slot. Yeah, well, I used the same slot.
We begin once again with breaking news here at 5 o'clock. Tensions flaring again in downtown L.A. as anti-ICE protesters take to the streets. This is the 5th straight day of this. About an hour ago, they got onto the 101 freeway. You can see the freeway is back open.
A lot of law enforcement presence right there. Take a look at the view from the ground when that happened on the freeway. Video there on the right, live pictures on the upper left. You can see CHP mobilized quickly to move those protesters off the freeway. Not a repeat of what we saw this weekend. The confrontation shut down traffic for about 10 minutes. At the moment, traffic is flowing.
Good evening. Welcome to Fox 7 News at 5, simulcast on Fox 11 and Fox 11 Plus. I'm Alex Michelson.
And I'm Christine Devine. Here is where things stand at this hour in Los Angeles. A Marine battalion is here in Los Angeles, but is not yet engaged near protests. The 700 Marines were sent from 29 Palms to aid some 1,700 National Guard already on the ground, but 4,000 are being deployed statewide. Governor Newsom filed an emergency request in federal court to block the Trump administration and use of the National Guard and Marines, but a federal judge has denied that. At
least for now. They may get a hearing on that later. Meanwhile, the Pentagon is revealing the cost of all this. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says the deployment of Marines and the Guard will cost at least $134 million. LA Mayor Karen Bass has called for ICE raids to end. That's not the plan, according to Hegseth, who says immigration enforcement could last for 60 days and things could escalate further, with President Trump suggesting he's open to invoking the Insurrection Act. Today, he used some heated rhetoric in his speech at Fort Bragg, calling LA protesters animals and a foreign enemy.
On Monday night, protests did turn violent. We saw more vandalism, violence, and there were 96 arrests, according to the LAPD.
So protests against federal immigration enforcement heating up again. We're going to begin our coverage of it right now.
Fox 11's Matthew Seedorf joining us live from the downtown LA area again with the latest. Matthew?
Yeah, we're right now on the police line where protesters have been out here all day long. We're at Alameda and Temple Street. You can see there are some protesters kind of taking a break right now over there in the shade, but the majority of the ones that were here actually went that direction at least a few blocks. They've been kind of bouncing around where we are right now. But Sammy, if you want to just flip and show the massive line of LAPD cars out here, we're seeing so many police officers. There's just a giant change of what we've been seeing the last few days. Police departments from all over the area out here, as far as Devonshire Division for LAPD. And if we flip it this way, this is where we're outside the federal detention center. We saw at least 30 people get arrested. They got a little bit too close, and there was a little bit of a face-off earlier today with members of law enforcement. You can see that LAPD bus. Again, at least 30 people arrested there. And then as tensions were building here, more and more people left this scene and went over to the 101 freeway, blocking portions of that freeway. There's currently a standoff in place between protesters at that scene and members of law enforcement. But at this point, it seems like people are just kind of bouncing around. These protesters haven't really figured out exactly where they're going to go. It seems like there's also just this overwhelming force of police and members of law enforcement out here. Definitely right now, it seems like members of law enforcement are outnumbering the number of protesters that we're seeing in downtown. I'll go ahead and send it back to you.
So, Matthew, it also is striking the body language is different today as well.
Yeah, completely different, much calmer, right? I mean, there's not really that sense of energy that we were feeling at this time yesterday where you could feel like something was going to happen. I mean, if we can just pan and look at the majority of the protesters on the block that we're seeing, they're kind of just standing there, looking around, hanging out in the shade. There's some signs and stuff, but for the most part right now, it's fairly quiet, at least where we are here at Alameda and Temple.
So, Matthew, also, we know there are fewer protesters out there today. The scene that you were showing with that police bus and hearing about the almost 100 arrests by the LAPD, people who are wondering what's happening to some of these people that are especially committing the violence. What do you make of hearing of about 100 arrests?
Yeah, we actually have an update on that. According to sources, we're hearing that at least 130 arrests so far today, and that's almost as many as we've seen the previous 3 days combined. So law enforcement out here definitely making their presence known, and just a major shift from what we've seen the previous days.
And some arrested today as part of their peaceful protest. There's a long history of that. People that are being taken into custody as a statement, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's always the people that are choosing to be arrested, to make that statement for political reasons. We're not exactly sure, I'm sure that there were portions of people in this crowd that were taken away in the bus that were arrested, you could say, by choice, but there were definitely some that it was not their choice. They had a little bit of a face-off with police that might have gone a little bit too far.
Well, as we are looking at your live shot there, I couldn't help but notice all of the graffiti behind you. And I'm thinking as people around the nation watch Los Angeles, as they have been for 5 days now, you can't help but take notice of the destruction and the damage there, just the graffiti alone.
Yeah, sorry about showing that graffiti, but there is it's hard not to because there's so much of it. It's everywhere. We won't pan and show it, obviously, but it's pretty much all the blocks. You see the F word and you see ICE, a lot of derogatory language. You see vandalism, benches that are torn up, concrete sidewalks that are torn up. Yeah, it's tough to see.
Are you seeing more cops out there than protesters?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So far today, I mean, look at this massive line. This is all LAPD right here. And then if you, it's even on the next street over, and we've been seeing them kind of driving all over the blocks. You'll see them with their sirens on, as well as California Highway Patrol with them. Just a massive show of force today. Definitely, it seems like the protesters are on the move, and the police departments out here are not letting them really gather in one spot too long.
And just noting, as we see all those officers there, so many of them in those long sleeve uniforms, just noting it's a bit warm out there this afternoon.
Yeah, it is a little bit warm, and a lot of these police officers are putting in just massive amounts of hours. All these officers working overtime. You're talking about 12-hour days, but also some of them working much longer than that, as much as 20-hour days. So they're feeling it. It's been a long few days for them. It's been a long few days for the protesters as well, and maybe that's why so far tonight it's a little quieter.
That's all expensive too, if you think about it. We know this cost for the military apparently $134 million. We know LA's in a big budget deficit. Sometimes when we see these, and we've covered these for so many years, there's a moment when the quote-unquote fever breaks, when things start to go in the other direction. It seems like we may have hit that moment. Last night may have been the end of it, but the real test, Matthew, is what happens after dark when the Antifa folks and all those folks come out. Last night they were allowed to basically do whatever they wanted, and then at the end of the night some of them were arrested. Still got to see what happens on that front tonight.
Yeah, that's a good point. And don't forget, too, I mean, there were people that were trying to take over the 101 freeway about an hour ago. So there are still people trying to make their presence known in the downtown area tonight for this protest. But it definitely seems like law enforcement is on top of it, and they have the numbers right now to put an end to it pretty quick.
Well, you heard LAPD Chief Jim McDonald talk about how they really can gauge how protests ramp up when there's an incident or situation. And he said it takes 2 or 3 days, and that would have put it at Sunday for those 2 or 3 days. Of course, it being a weekend allows many more people to make their voices known, get out there, protest, and also people, as you say, the disruptors and those instigators and things like that. But really, this show of LAPD force in this pretty much same area where people have been showing up, which is near the federal building and that 101 freeway, quite the statement if you're planning to show up as a protester or to do some damage. Quite a statement, right, Matthew, by police?
Yeah, I mean, if you come down here right now, you're going to be met with a large, overwhelming police presence, and it's going to be tough if you're trying to cause issues to do that tonight, because even just walking around the town right now, you'll just see police driving by, lights and sirens on. Even driving by just this intersection where we're standing by these protesters, we've been seeing them whip around here with the big buses as well. I mean, it just seems like they want to make their presence known to deter any more issues this evening.
Yeah, Matthew Cedar.
And then there's this.
Thank you for that reporting. And we look at these folks now marching in the streets as their protest continues. That though is part of a protest for a lot of people. I mean, as long as that it's just sort of peaceful marching through the streets, obviously that messes up traffic, but that's not nearly as destructive as some of the behavior that we've seen in the last few days. So we're going to keep an eye on that, and also want to see what's happening in Orange County as well, where local leaders are condemning what they are calling authoritarian fear tactics brought on by ICE and Homeland Security officers. This was what it looked like earlier today. This is in Santa Ana after some violent clashes last night between protesters and some of the law enforcement out there.
We had that live on our nighttime newscast. Fox 11's Christina Gonzalez has been out there all day taking the temperature as tempers did flare up last night. Christina.
Yeah, right now we're at McFadden and Bristol, and let me get out of the way because the people who are beginning to gather here and they're just arriving, they're coming in from the Civic Center, from downtown, where you have the National Guard tanks and the setup there. So they were having rallies there, and people were trying to continue business in that area. All that in the middle of this, we had a bunch of protesters from the other side show up as we were talking to a woman from a pawn shop, and let's just listen to what it's like to have to deal with this as it's all going on and try to do business. Listen.
USA! USA! USA!
Did you ever imagine, algún día se imaginó que iba a tener al National Guard in front of you?
Never. This is the first.
The American people are waking up!
Came to get some lunch and we
couldn't,
no.
We are going to establish law and order.
Is it changing how you do things to see all the images of, like, you were trying to come here for lunch, but...
Right. Yeah, it does. It does.
In what way?
It does only because I feel like it's, you can't go to your local places.
The United States of America!
We have employees that, need to feed their families. We have a lot of people that come here to get paid to feed their families, and, if we're to close, if we are 1, 2, or 3 days, it's a huge impact for the employees that we have here. So,
aside from the protests going on in front of you, are you also finding employees afraid to come to work because of the raid?
you know what? It's intense. It's not just here in Perla, but just in downtown in general. Whether you are legal or not legal, I think even the people who are legal are afraid to come out. I don't think it's a matter of a document. It's just, you see police, you see, the Marines out here, you see police, and you just don't want to be outside.
It's so frustrating and it's so unbelievable that I don't even have the words for it. It's just so...
Still trying to process this.
Honestly, yeah, because I know from here, this is just the beginning. I know things are going to happen from here. This is only the beginning.
And I want to emphasize at this point, the only businesses really being affected by this whole thing after the stuff last night are the ones downtown. All of Santa Ana continues operating just fine. But talking about the issue and how angry they are about it, our Orange County politician, 2nd District Supervisor Vicente Sarmiento had this to say just a little while ago. Listen.
To the federal administration, we demand that you take your militarized equipment and troops and stop occupying our communities immediately. Yesterday, I personally witnessed the efforts of ICE officers clearly intending to escalate what was a lawful and peaceful demonstration.
And back live here, you can see all the vehicles beginning to arrive and the crowd beginning to grow. A very peaceful crowd at this point, I do have to say. This is not the first time they've had rallies out here at Bristol and McFadden, and they can get quite large. But at this point, they have been very, very peaceful. Even the stuff going on downtown was loud, in your face, but it never came to blows or anything like that. And if I can wear a Dodgers hat in this territory, and I'm not getting it, it's not so bad. But of course, we're going to have to see what happens later on. But generally, the situation here, people have been very peaceful, and we'll keep our eye on it. They're just making their voices heard. I'm Christina Gonzalez, live in Santa Ana. Back to you guys in the studio.
Noting Santa Ana being in Orange County and maybe not Dodger territory, or maybe. But anyway, Christina, we were on the news last night with the protesters pretty late into the night there in Santa Ana. We also talked about there being an ICE raid or two in Santa Ana and surrounding Orange County areas. What are you hearing about that, ICE operations there?
Yeah, I mean, the people that we talk to are telling us that they've had several raids out here, and that is what's bringing out people to the streets. And they've been going on for a while, and they're expecting more. And the reality is that, as you see, let me get out of the way again so you can see some of these people. One of the things we are hearing from people, and not only here, but in LA everywhere, is that they were told by their politicians that this is a sanctuary city, a sanctuary state, and that they would be safe. And the reality is that they're seeing people being picked up by federal authorities. So as much as local authorities are trying to do what they can, the reality is that they can't, at least not the local authorities, stop those raids because they're federal. So people are saying, well, can anything stop it? And it's a question we're asking the politicians. What can they do? And the reality is that this is going to be a tough situation because the feds are saying they're going to continue these raids for a while. So it's difficult. It's difficult for them, but as far as we understand, they are continuing, yes.
Yeah, I mean, federal law supersedes state law, and the federal government has the right to do it, even though it's being challenged in court right now. We'll see what happens on that front. Can you talk, though, for a moment, for people that may not spend a lot of time in Santa Ana, about sort of the makeup of Santa Ana, such a proud Latino community, such an immigrant community?
Yeah, Santa Ana is a huge community, not only for Latinos. I may add, we're in Orange County. There's a huge Asian population out here. We actually had quite a few people asking us, have you heard anything? You know, because there's a lot of people afraid other than Mexican Americans or Latin Americans. But the population here is highly from all kinds of other countries. Santa Ana has always, if you go to the shopping district, you're going to have quinceañera stores, which is where you get your 15 dresses, and one after the other and the new stores like the Starbucks coming in. And it's been an old community, old-time Latino community. So, yeah, this is in Orange County. If there's going to be a flashpoint like LA would be in LA County, it probably would be Santa Ana, because of the makeup of the community. And hopefully it will not get to the point. I will say, when I went to downtown this morning, I did not see the kind of damage we saw in LA. People, yes, they spray painted some walls, and yes, they did trash the windows of the federal building, but nobody broke into any stores. That's why the businesses, but we do have fireworks, that's what those are, and they happen quite often. We're getting kind of used to them. But at this point, the businesses were not targeted like they were in Los Angeles, and hopefully that will remain the case here. That's what the protesters are hoping themselves for.
Well, we also did see the Santa Ana Police Department out there in force. We saw several people being detained on our air as well. And also we had the Sheriff's Department from Orange County that was there also. So I know we've been covering a lot of Los Angeles in our coverage in the past 4 or 5 days. But when we got to Orange County there, we got to see Orange County there kind of, you might say, in action and what was happening there. But there was a heavy police presence. Do you know about that, Christina?
Well, like the woman was saying, the owner of the pawn shop, I don't think this is going to get better before it gets worse. At least that's her perspective and many of the people here. If the raids don't stop, is what I am being told by people out here, these things are not going to stop. So we'll have to see what happens, because as LA does, other cities may follow in terms of how the protests grow. We'll have to see.
In the meantime, we might also want to get you an Angels hat. Go along with your Dodgers.
Exactly. Got to get repertoire.
I had it in the car. I've been digging it out because I also love the Angels. I just have to put something on right now, but hopefully by the next hit I'll find the Angels hat.
Okay. Yeah, do it all. All right, Christina, thank you. By the way, we're expecting a news conference from Mayor Bass that was supposed to start at 5:15. It could start at any moment. When it does, we will go there. That's from the Emergency Operations Center for the city.
So as we talked earlier in this newscast, a federal judge has denied an emergency order filed by Governor Newsom to block the deployment of the National Guard and Marines in Los Angeles.
But it's not totally over. Newsom, of course, is calling the deployment illegal. He says President Trump is turning the military against its own citizens. So the judge has scheduled a Thursday afternoon hearing on California's request for a restraining order. President Trump spoke about the immigration protests today at Fort Bragg, telling the crowd he will liberate L.A. from, quote, foreign enemies.
What you're witnessing in California is a full-blown assault on peace, on public order. and a national sovereignty carried out by rioters bearing foreign flags with the aim of continuing. You know what? They have it in Europe too. It's happening.
The president also called L.A. a, quote, trash heap. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, also weighing in on Governor Newsom's actions.
Gavin Newsom should be arrested, but he ought to be tarred and feathered, I'll say that. I mean, look, he's standing in the way of the administration and the carrying out of federal law, right? He is applauding the bad guys and standing in the way of the good guys. He is trying to, he's a participant, an accomplice in our federal law enforcement agents being not just disrespected, but assaulted. This is a serious problem.
Newsom the other day told me that Johnson is a joke and not taken seriously. Johnson says Newsom should do his job and stop defying the president. We are on top of more breaking news. A lot going on. Look at this, a brush fire burning in the hills. This is above Burbank. It caused some evacuation orders. Skyfox over the scene. This is near Bethany Road and Amherst Drive. This is west of the DeBell Golf Course. Up to 10 acres burned so far. Authorities have also closed the nearby hiking areas as well.
So let's talk about the weather and what kind of role that's playing with that fire as well. Chief Meteorologist Adam Kruger with that.
Yeah, other than being warm, it's not like it's particularly windy around Burbank right now, and the humidity is between 40 and 50%, which is not especially dry at the moment. There's actually two fires we're tracking. I'm going to take you first to just southeast of Victorville, known as the Ranch Fire right here. This one's at 1,533 acres as of last check from CAL FIRE, and this is a little more wind-driven here. The winds, like we've seen for days now, kind of breezy in the high desert. You see Victorville right now with sustained winds just under 30 miles an hour and at times gusting a bit stronger. Then as we take you over to Burbank, again, here is the Burbank Airport, which is where the weather sensor is. It's measuring a wind at about 12 miles per hour, blowing from south to north. Here's the Bethany Fire, and as Alex mentioned, there's the DeBell Golf Club right there. So less of a wind situation here, and hopefully they can get that one under control. We'll keep an eye on it, though. If you're curious about what the winds are going to do the rest of this evening, we'll map it out for you. Here's 6 o'clock going into 9 o'clock. Notice over towards Burbank, again, winds under 10 miles an hour. Over towards Victorville and near the Ranch Fire, winds will be dying down over the next few hours as well. Hopefully that helps out a little bit. It is expected to be another gusty day in the desert tomorrow. Notice those winds gusting over 20 near Victorville there, but again, staying on the low side over towards Burbank tomorrow. All right, temperature-wise, now here's the other part of our weather story. It is warmer today. We've moved into a warmer pattern, at least for inland areas, not so much for parts of the coast. We're at 68 right now, Santa Monica, but some 70s along the coast as well. Notice how much warmer it is, though, as you go farther inland. We've got 90s right now in the Inland Empire, 80 degrees over towards Burbank, but Santa Clarita's at 91. Hot temperatures across the desert, especially in Palm Springs, where it's currently 105. Lows tonight bottom out around 60 to low 60s for many locations, and then tomorrow will be another warm day, similar to today, but also tomorrow morning. We start with those clouds, maybe a little patchy fog or drizzle in some spots. That was 7 a.m. Here we go into the afternoon. It mostly clears out, maybe some clouds lingering right along the immediate coastline tomorrow. So high temperatures tomorrow. Again, we're going to see a warmer pattern now for several days. This will last right into the upcoming weekend, which we'll talk more about later. Notice low 70s for the most part along the coast, 80 or so for LA. Inland areas like the valleys well into the 80s, maybe some 90s around Santa Clarita, 90s in the IE, and hot temperatures in the desert. We'll go back to you.
All right, thank you so much. We have a look again right here around the 101 freeway in downtown LA. Heavy police presence, small amount of protesters, but they're still there. More news when we come back as we await word from the mayor of LA.
Live picture of protesters. You see them right here standing in front of the federal building in downtown Los Angeles, which is being guarded by the National Guard and by police. We do not see any incidents, but people letting their voices be heard.
Christina Gonzalez had said the officers in the dark were Homeland Security assisting there as well. That's what she said yesterday when she was right there in front of this federal building. There is a crowd gathered there, as you can see there, almost about the size, maybe smaller than what we saw yesterday. And we are keeping a watch on the different pockets of protesters in downtown LA. We saw a lot of them on the move in one of our aerial shots before the commercial break, and they were marching. I'm not sure if this is where they marched to, or they are there they are. They keep continuing to be moving. So perhaps they're moving around the downtown area.
And part of the reason we talked about this yesterday, that they move, is because if you're in one spot for too long, you could have a dispersal order, essentially, but if you're constantly moving, it's harder to do that. So it's actually a more effective protest technique to keep moving. What's not great is for, people that have to drive their cars, as you see right in the middle of this, which is potentially not a great situation. Hopefully we avoid hitting anybody and they move and go out their way, but we'll keep watching this. Meanwhile, more than 100 LAUSD schools are celebrating their graduates this week, but some parents are worried about ICE if they attend their kids' ceremonies.
LAUSD superintendent vowed to protect students, school employees, and parents. Fox 11's Susan Hirasuna joining us with more on his message.
What a challenge, right? It's been reported that as many as 1 in 5 LA County students has at least one undocumented parent. So the fear is real for LAUSD parents. At the same time, graduation is a big moment for families, and the district has been hearing from parents that might be too afraid to attend.
We stand strongly on the right side of law.
Los Angeles Unified School Superintendent Alberto